Anne Richards, Chief Investment Officer for Aberdeen Asset Management. Welcome to FundForum International. What themes and topics are you finding interesting and hearing a lot about this year?
I think for the first time this year we've seen, or I've heard, people who you wouldn't normally expect to be interested in technology, in big data, in conversations around disruption possibly coming to the asset management industry in a way that really wouldn't have been on the agenda even 12 months ago. So that's been quite fascinating to hear that.
And do you think people are looking for solutions when they come here, ideas? What do they take away?
I think part of it is trying to understand what the competitors are doing, what the competitive environment is doing. I think we've seen disruption from technology coming into a number of other industries, and for the first time the financial services industry, which hasn't seen a lot of technological disruption over the last 20 years or so, is starting to ask, well, what could that mean for us? Could there be other distributors that come in and cannibalise our own distribution networks, and what would that mean and look like for us?
Does that mean that you are looking to move forward as an industry together? I know you're competitors, but can you work more collaboratively on that front, do you think?
I think there will be signs of that. I think you can see that already in platform-based technologies where you're seeing seed core investors, perhaps from the asset management side, look at getting involved to see how those collaborative kind of ventures can be taken forward. But I think this is quite nascent, so I think everybody's just feeling their way, and there can be a risk with being the first mover in this, but also an advantage potentially as well. So it's that balance of what is innately quite a conservative industry, I think, just trying to get that balance right.
Does that need to evolve, the conservatism?
Well, I think if you ally conservatism with what we're trying to do for clients that have a long-term perspective, it's not a bad thing to be conservative. I think being conservative and being prudent are good things to have when you're looking after other people's money. So at that level, that matters and is important, but at the same time, while retaining that conservative core, I think we have to evolve. The economic landscape, the investment landscape has changed. There are new ways of looking at things, and we have to be willing to embrace some degree of change while not losing that inherent prudence.
One of the criticisms of the industry is there aren't enough young investors. Would change like that help to encourage that younger generation, do you think?
I think we now have the first truly digital generation coming into earning capacity, potentially having the money to save, and so it's an industry that it's a market that will need new ways of engagement if we are to tap into that. So I think that's absolutely right, and that's why it's an industry that's possibly ripe for disruption. You know, the people today that are beginning to save have never used vinyl, have never used a CD, you know, would never dream of looking at those ways of harnessing music, and why should investments be any different to that?
It's really vital that you do get those new customers from the younger generation in and start saving earlier and saving more in society too.
That's right, but of course certainly in a number of Western countries we're of course burdening our young people with much more debt earlier. I mean, you've seen that in the US, you've seen that in the UK, and you see that in other markets as well. So of course it takes them longer to get onto the savings ladder by the time they get their deposit down for their first house or whatever it might be. So there are some challenges around about that, but yes, I think there is a growing understanding of the importance of the need to encourage people to save for their own future, because you can't rely necessarily on government bailing you out down the line.
This conference, you talked about evolution. This conference likes to think it provides an environment for that sort of fresh thinking, if you like, lots of people to speak to and chat to. What can you take away from something like this that you can really put into your business afterwards?
I think the big data argument for me and the big data exploration is probably, of all of the things that I've taken away, the one that is the most useful, and just to understand where other people are also feeling their way and what they think as the priorities are for that. So that's probably the single biggest thing that I take away as being interested, and I associate the technology side with that as well. It's the two things combined.
Anne Richards, thank you so much for joining us.
No, pleasure, thank you.